Hey, what's up, guys? It looks like Minnesota is suing Trump admin over the ICE surge after a fatal shooting. This should be pretty interesting. Let's just hop right into this and see, what's going on with everything.
Leaders in Minnesota are making an announcement about the surge in federal immigration agents. Take a listen.
Of Mayor Herr, who is also a dear friend of many years. We've come together and we're here to announce a lawsuit we're filing against the United States Department of Homeland.
Wow, so they're filing a lawsuit against the United States. This is interesting. I wonder on what basis they can do this. Because if anything, I thought the US should be doing something against the Minnesota mayor because it seems like what he's doing isn't he's not cooperating with the federal government. I thought the federal government was the end all be all when it came to the hierarchy of power. So I would have thought that they would actually be facing charges of like some type of insurrection for telling the people to go out and, protest the ICE raids, and then some type of treason charges for not following what the federal government is saying, which is really the federal government listens to the entire body of the people with all of the states combined. So I would think that they would be at the hierarchy of power.
And security.
Look, I could be completely wrong, though. I honestly don't know. 25-year-old young man, guys. So
To end the unlawful, unprecedented surge of the federal law enforcement agents into Minnesota. Because this has to stop. It just has to stop. We allege that the obvious targeting of Minnesota for our diversity, for our democracy.
Okay, so he's saying that there's obvious targeting of Minnesota for their diversity and democracy. I would love to see what points he has following that because I don't know how that makes any contextual sense because I haven't seen them being targeted for those reasons.
And our differences of opinion with the federal government is a violation of the Constitution and of federal law. We allege that the surge's reckless impact on our schools, on our local law enforcement, is a violation of the 10th Amendment and the sovereign laws and powers of the Constitution grants to states. We allege that DHS's use of excessive and lethal force, their warrantless racist arrests.
I don't think DHS is making racist arrests, guys. I think that this guy is simply trying to just spew divisive rhetoric in order to get his way and get DHS out of Minnesota.
Their targeting of our courts, our churches, houses of worship, and schools are a violation of the Administrative Procedures Act on arbitrary and capricious federal actions. And we ask that the courts will end the surge of thousands of DHS agents into Minnesota. We ask the courts to end the DHS unlawful behavior in our state, the intimidation, the threats, the violence. We ask the courts to end the tactics on our places of worship, our schools, our courts, our marketplaces, our hospitals, and even funeral homes. The deployment of thousands of armed, mass DHS agents to Minnesota has done our state serious harm.
If anything, I would think it would be doing your state a great service. Essentially, what DHS would be doing would be looking for illegal immigrants and pulling people over and conducting a free background check, which seems like it would get criminals off of your streets, thus allowing you to save money that would be allocated towards police funding. Am I missing something?
Is, in essence, a federal invasion of the Twin Cities and Minnesota, and it must stop. DHS agents have sown chaos and terror across the metropolitan area and in cities across the state of Minnesota.
I really would not have thought that DHS would be causing terror and chaos. I would think it would be quite the opposite. I would think they would be getting criminals off of your streets for completely free on the federal dime. Thus, you'd have less chaos. Unless maybe you're making the chaos by saying divisive rhetoric that gets liberal women shot because they go out and they try to obstruct federal operations. Maybe I could see that.
Schools have gone onto lockdown. Entire districts have had to cancel school for tens of thousands of students to ensure safety and offer online education because of the students and the parents' fear of coming into the school. Local businesses are struggling. Revenues.
So wait, let me get this straight. So the parents are fearing the DHS federal agents that are there to uphold the law and protect them?
Are down. And some retail stores, daycares, and restaurants have actually closed because people are afraid to go out and to do their shopping, whether they're immigrants or whether they are citizens of many generations. This surge has made us less safe. Thousands of poorly trained, aggressive, and armed agents of the state, of the federal government.
So we have to get the reality straight. Just because you may feel less safe doesn't mean you actually are less safe. A lot of people said that, when Trump was militarizing the military over in DC, it felt very unsafe because there was a bunch of military with AR-15s. But in actuality, the homicide rate dropped drastically. So I would argue that your place is probably a lot more safe with a lot more federal agents there to protect it. And they're also probably a huge deterrent for crime. I don't think anyone's going to be robbing a store when there's agents strapped up with ARs across the street. Or maybe they're less likely to shoot up a school when they know that there are policemen inside of the school that will stop it.
Communities overwhelmed our local police departments and law enforcement agencies should be focused on our public safety, but instead, many are dealing with the aftermath of DHS agents' chaos and violence. I want to thank our law enforcement officers for doing a tremendous job under very difficult circumstances. Not the people, but the federal government.
By spitting on ICE, you're practically spitting on your own police force, because really they're a part of the same team, which is just getting criminals off of the street. And I don't think too many of those police agents are going to be protesting against ICE.
Government. Minneapolis police have had to respond to more than 20 ICE-related incidents, like witnesses seeking people being pulled into.
By the way, guys, 20, from my knowledge, 20 is not a lot of incidents at all. I think these police stations can see upwards to hundreds of incidents, sometimes a day. So 20 incidents overall over this long period of time is not a lot. That should not be a big uptick in monetary spending for those police officers. There shouldn't be like massive overtime because of that or anything like that. So
unmarked vehicles by men en masse, or ICE abandoning vehicles on the street with people detained inside. This is an unlawful commandeering of police resources.
So ICE is abandoning vehicles on the street with people detained inside. So now we're comparing ICE to bad mothers that leave their children in hot cars, essentially.
In just 2 days, responding to the chaos ICE has cost the city $2 billion in law enforcement and overtime expenses. 2 days.
That might just be another form of fraud, brother. You might be experiencing another like daycare situation, but just, in a different sector, because there's no reason that you guys should be losing $2 billion in 2 days. Let me re-listen to this.
Cost the city $2 billion in law enforcement and overtime expenses.
$2 billion in overtime expenses in how many days?
2 days. And I wish I could stop there.
He's not saying 2 days, is he? Is he saying $1 billion a day in overtime?
And overtime expenses. 2 days.
2 days.
And I wish I could stop there.
Okay.
Because these poorly trained, aggressive, and armed agents of the federal state.
I want you guys to leave a comment in the comment section and tell me what you think about that, because frankly, that just seems obscene. It sounds like it's some type of fraud going on if you're spending $2 billion in 2 days in overtime just because ICE agents are in the city.
Have terrorized.
You would think they'd spend less money.
Unlawful conduct. They're making unconstitutional arrests and using excessive force. DHS agents have barged into restaurants asking to access secure areas. And when asked to present a warrant, which is required by law, I
really feel like they're trying to just frame this as Trump is Hitler. This is Nazi Germany. And, these ICE agents are rounding up the Jews. It really feels like that's just how they're trying to frame it. And it's sad. I feel like it's despicable to, go out there and disgrace our great federal agents like this.
Respond, we don't need one.
Because they're illegal immigrants.
DHS agents have arrested peaceful
They're not
bystanders.
civilians.
They have fired chemical irritants at people obeying lawful orders while exercising their First Amendment rights. They have even done so at some of our most sensitive places, like Roosevelt High School here in Minneapolis.
I did not hear about that. That's crazy.
They have detained law-abiding citizens, leaving them handcuffed for hours, just because of the color of their skin.
I actually have a funny story about that. I was actually walking into a store one time, and I opened the door, and it was past 12, and I thought the place would be open. It was 12 at night. I thought the place would be open. I thought it would be 24 hours. Well, the door opened up, but there was no owner, and there were no clients or customers inside of the store. So I just left immediately. But when I opened the door, it set off a silent alarm. And then a police officer came and he detained me for 4 to 5 hours while he waited to get the footage back to see if I had stolen anything from the store. I'm not mad at that police officer. I'm not mad that he detained me and I had to wait 4 or 5 hours. It was just a shitty situation. I could see both sides of it. And I did sit, in that police station for a long period of time. So when these ICE agents are going and they're conducting their investigations, yeah, it's a shitty situation if you have to sit in handcuffs for a little bit. But it's a question of, do the ends justify the means? And in this case, they do, because we have a lot of illegal aliens that need to get out of our country.
Or what they're wearing, or they speak English with an accent. And on January 7th, 2026, a DHS agent shot and killed Renee Nicole Good.
Yeah, and I saw that video, and I did think it was very very sad. I saw the way the ICE agent went about shooting her. I don't think he needed to. I don't think his life was really in danger. I could see how he could present it as that. I think he presented a good case for it being that. I think he drew a foul in a basketball game and he let off some shots. Like it's similar to if a basketball player is playing basketball, he goes up to shoot the shot and he moves his arm into the other team's arm while he goes to shoot the shot. So he can draw the foul. So if he misses the shot, he still can, shoot free throws. I think that's kind of what happened here. Like the ICE agent saw the car. He knew he shouldn't be standing in front of the car. The car went into reverse first. Instead of stepping to the side, he steps in front of it and he has a pistol. And the car barely swipes him. And he lets off 3 shots at a woman and kills her. And I think that there could have been so many de-escalation tactics that he could have pulled that system or that situation was easily preventable. But I'm not going to sit here and condemn all of ICE for this one idiot officer that doesn't know how to do his job correctly. He should have never been wearing the badge. And I think that he made a fucked up ego-based decision. And, a woman and her family now have to pay for the consequences of that, unfortunately.
Leaving her children.
And I do think he's going to beat the charges, and I do think the U.S. is kind of fucked up in that way, and I think he rocked a gray area where he drew that foul, and at the end of the day, when he goes to sleep, or at the end of the night when he goes to sleep, he's going to have to think about his actions, and when he dies, he'll be held accountable.
Without a mother and her 6-year-old
That's
son,
my opinion on it, guys.
without either parent.
Could be wrong, could be right. That's just my view on it.
This has to stop. So let's be clear. It never should have started. These agents have no good reason to be here. Minnesota's non-citizen immigrant population is just 1.5%, which is half the national average. Our state's percentage is lower than Utah, Texas, and Florida's, but none of those states have thousands of federal agents swarming their streets or harming their people. The administration says that they're focused on finding criminals. Worst of the worst, they say. But many of the people the DHS is arresting in Minnesota have no criminal history. That fits a pattern.
Arresting, like what's the definition of arresting? Is it just detaining until we find out like what's actually going on to see if they're illegal or not? Or are they being arrested and this is like Haiti 2.0 where they're being thrown in jails and there's no process for them to get out? I don't think the latter is the case. I really don't. I think they're being detained. I think they're being questioned, and then I think they're being released. And I think it's that simple.
In 2025, 93% of the people arrested by ICE had no violent criminal history. 65% had no criminal convictions
Well, you said 93% had no criminal history. If they're an illegal immigrant, I guess they wouldn't have any history at all.
At all, and randomly stopping people in the street because their skin color isn't the one that they expect or want isn't doing a thing to help public safety. I've heard the administration talk about fraud.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that it sucks, being not of a European descent walking down the street, or even an African descent, because I don't think Africans are really dealing with this. I think it's more of like maybe a descent from like Spaniards or something. I don't know. I really don't. I don't know what he's talking about, but I could see how it would suck if like you're walking down the street and you're getting profiled. But I mean, at the end of the day, profiling has a legitimate use case, and I think we have to recognize that there's a use case to it and stop being all touchy-feely and sunshine and rainbows about things.
No, not the 43 fraud convictions the president has, or the $43 million fraudsters the president has pardoned, but instead saying that...
When I say profiling has a use case, I just mean we have pattern recognition as humans, and I don't think we should disregard that to be virtuous in some way. I think that we'll have better outcomes if we continue using pattern recognition.
We work with federal government all the time, and if the federal government wants to help us with forensic accountants, we're open to that conversation. But these ICE agents who are engaged in the behavior that they're...
You don't really need forensic accountants to the degree that you think you do. When you go in, you can clearly see in Minnesota that those daycares were fraudulent daycares. They weren't spelling learning right. They were blacking out all of the windows, and it wasn't for child safety. I know plenty of legitimate daycares that don't black out all the windows like that. They didn't have playgrounds. It just looked like a warehouse inside, and they were just, taking government kickbacks.
Engaged in are not helping public safety at all. Immigration enforcement agents aren't trained to investigate fraud, and randomly stopping people on the street because you don't like their accent isn't going to stop fraud. So enforcing federal immigration law and fighting fraud are just pretexts for this surge. The real reason, it's no secret. Donald Trump and his administration have been targeting people, cities, and states that don't agree with them politically. He singled out Minnesota countless times. He's called us corrupt and crooked. He's attacked our funding to the tune of billions of dollars, which we are challenging. And we fought back, of course. He's attacked programs that Minnesotans rely on.
I don't know, man. You spent $2 billion over 2 days for overtime on police. I don't know if we should be giving you any funding. I don't know if you know how to handle it correctly.
On and try to shut them down and
No
pay
offense.
taxes for. And he's attacked Minnesotans with despicable, racist, xenophobic language. The truth is, Donald Trump doesn't
Democrats
seem to like our
always
state
go
very
the
much.
we're racist
But
route.
what's that about?
They always say
He
we're
doesn't
racist.
like our best in the nation, safe and secure elections, and sometimes he doesn't like who we choose in them. Just last week, Trump claimed that he won Minnesota 3 times, when in fact he's never won Minnesota. He doesn't like how we take care of each other or how we make sure our kids have enough to eat. He doesn't like the strength that immigrant communities bring to our state. And he doesn't seem to like that we protect our neighbors no matter where they were born. In short, the Trump administration's decision to target Minnesota and Twin Cities is motivated by a desire to retaliate against Trump's perceived political opponents, who are the people of the state of Minnesota and Twin Cities, rather than any good faith concerns about immigration enforcement, public safety, or law enforcement. In conclusion,
Look, fraud. Tim Walz said he wasn't going to be running for governor because of all the fraud that took place. He felt like he was a letdown. And I think that he knows he's guilty on some level. So if we just recognize that, then we can say, Nick Shirley and Trump have at least that point case to run off of. Because I truly think if Tim was innocent, he would have been running for re-election.
I didn't
Therefore,
have the pleasure
Minnesota
and the
does have a
benefit of
problem.
knowing Renee Nicole Good, but her friends and family knew her as someone who was kind, someone who loved her family deeply, and someone willing to stand up for her neighbors. That sounds like the Minnesota that I know. The administration wants to paint false political narratives about us, but we know who we are and we know our rights. The Constitution gives Minnesota the sovereign authority.
I think after the light's been shined on this state, I don't think a lot of people look at you guys as good people. I think we look at you as corrupt politicians that were stealing from your taxpayers.
Authority to protect health and well-being of every single person who lives on our borders. The Constitution gives us the right to vote for who we want, pray however we want, and be whoever we want, without fear of being racially profiled, assaulted, or killed in our own communities. We're going to defend those rights because as much as they'd like to believe it, DHS is not above the law, and the people of Minnesota are certainly not beneath it.